Yes, ladies and gentlemen, please do stay with us. We have a brilliant panel coming up next, not one to miss. Now, my panel earlier, ladies and gentlemen, was on AI and communication, but we're now going to turn our attention to AI in healthcare. And AI is no longer a distant promise, ladies and gentlemen. It's here. It's transforming the healthcare industry as we know it. So to guide us through this vital discussion, we have yet another exceptional panel lineup of speakers for you. So please do join us and we will get started. So ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our first guest. First up, we're delighted to have with us here today Michael Schelper, who is the Senior Vice President for Corporate Development at Caresyntax. A warm welcome.
Any space? No?
Wonderful to have Michael here. Next, ladies and gentlemen, we are absolutely delighted to also be joined by Marwan Abdulaziz Janahi, who is the Senior Vice President of Dubai Science Park. A warm welcome. Wonderful to have Marwan with us here today. Khalid Shaikh is the founder and CEO of Prognica Labs, and he is our next guest. Great to have you here. And Siddharth Shah is the founder of PharmEasy, who rounds out our panel here this morning. Wonderful to have you here, as I mentioned. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, what an incredible panel lineup we have here today to tackle this subject. And let's dive straight in. The time is never really on our side with these sessions, sadly. So Michael, I want you to be our sort of scene setter, if possible, and obviously tell us a little bit more about Caresyntax within this as well. But we've got so many AI-driven innovations when it comes to healthcare. We've got innovation in terms of wearables. We've got predictive and early detection systems as well, and we've got robotics and things like that. Tell us a little bit more about what's happening in the industry for the average person that doesn't really know much.
Well, maybe we can start with something that is a little bit scary, that the average individual, like you and I, goes to the doctor or a health facility 5 to 6 times a week for about 20 minutes interacting with the healthcare system. That is what currently the decisions are based upon. But that also leaves another 364 days and 23 hours that we generate data points, that we take decisions that impact our health, life, and well-being. But these two areas are not effectively connected. If we dive into the details of the healthcare field, a minimum of 30% of all the data that is generated in healthcare is in silos. And that is a staggering number. If you look at 30%, I mean, if I ask any of you, do you have access to your health record? Most likely I have this deer in headlight moment, right? No, you don't. And that is a problem, because we are all global citizens, we are traveling around the world. That is something natural in the financial services industry, where we can use our credit card wherever we are. But when it comes to healthcare, somehow we're a little bit in the Stone Age. And that is also maybe the beauty about technology advancing that fast, because we do have already a foundational digital transformation that is completed. So a lot of data is actually in a structured form captured. But we have to enable this structured and governed data flow along the entire patient journey to finally utilize technologies such as AI, LLMs, ML, computer vision, many others, to really generate the insights. So it is up to us to really enable that, but we also do see that healthcare providers have this perception they're sitting on a pot of gold, which is data. But more and more, they're getting to the realization that we don't know how to unleash the value that lies within this data, so we have to partner up. And that is where I believe, particularly in the part of the world that we are in, you have very progressive regulators that enable a structured and properly governed data flow to enable the new use cases, whereas in some other parts of the world, that is not easily possible. So there's a lot of value, but we have to dare to leverage technology to then identify what we don't know yet. There's a lot. I hope that helped in setting this in.
No, 100%. And at the end of the day, it's all about data quality as well, and what to do with all this data, exactly. So really interesting. We're going to come back to you in just a few moments. But Marwan, really fantastic to have you here. Now, great strides are being made over at Dubai Science Park, and it's really putting Dubai and the region, in fact, very much on the map in terms of healthcare and innovation. So tell us a little bit more about some of the strides that are being made, especially, though, when it comes to personalized and precision medicine through digital healthcare.
Yeah.
So firstly, thanks for having me. It's great to be part of this forum. We have been existing for now 20 years. So February of next year will mark our 20th anniversary. Although we were not operational from day one, there was a lot of building involved. And we've been operational since 2009. But we always wanted to create a community that caters to the entire value chain, from R&D to manufacturing to logistics to sales and marketing. And that kind of gave us, a great pull to be able to attract companies in different stages of development. Not only those who have a final product, but those who are also working on a product. And I think that is one of the key advantages of Dubai Science Park, in addition to the network that we have, to the engagement that we do with the entire network. And just by doing that and being very consistent for the last many years, we've been able to have more than 500 companies. And in different areas, pharma, biotech, medical device, medical equipment as well, and also people who provide services, whether it's testing, and it always evolves. We never stop. We always look at new areas that are evolving, that are growing, whether it's digital health, personalized medicine. And I think the other key role that we play is to kind of activate the entire ecosystem. So we don't work by ourselves. We have the government ecosystem and the stakeholders, whether it's the federal or the local. You have the academia that are also very, very important, doing lots of research, ideation. You have the investor community that eventually invest in some of those companies. And that's, I think, the key thing is to be well connected. And play a role where you basically create win-win situations. So that's the reason why we've been growing, from 2009, and I believe we will still continue to do so.
And brilliant, essentially, to have everything all under one roof. So you're all there together, and you've got all different pockets of different areas, so you can come together and create those partnerships and share that knowledge, which is vital. But we're going to go to research and development a little bit later. But in the meantime, really wonderful to have Khalid Shaikh here with us, Prognica Labs. Now, AI and robotics very much raises questions when it comes to the balance between sort of human empathy and an automation when it comes to delivery and care. So how do we make sure that this type of technology complements rather than replaces that human element? Because when it comes to healthcare, it's called healthcare for a reason, and you want that human element. So what's your take on that?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me here. See, my company, we started just 3 years back. And we have been more focusing on to AI-based technology for breast cancer. So currently focus is breast cancer, but while working with a couple of hospitals and diagnostic labs out here, one thing we have learned that at least 30% of there are the cases of misdiagnosis, and this data has come out from the breast cancer consortium. So our application, while we have actually implemented with a couple of hospitals, we have seen that there has been at least 12% of workload reduction. So what I mean to say is, when you have these kind of applications implemented with the healthcare providers, the radiologists and the doctors get some time to actually show the empathy or person-to-person relationship with the patients. So that's how I think AI can help rather than taking the actually work from the this thing. So so this is what we have actually implemented that.
So instead of taking over, it's very much using AI as a tool, like lots of different industries are doing right now, and making sure that AI is always your co-pilot and helping you in whatever you need to do, basically. Really interesting. Siddharth, wonderful to have you here as well. What advancements do you see AI having the most sort of impact on in terms of personalised medicine over the next couple of years? And how exactly are you adapting to this rapid evolution of AI technologies within your business?
I think the big impact we're seeing on AI is also in terms of making healthcare more affordable and accessible. And I think, I think there are different levels at which people are using AI, right? From tracking your parameters to, them using for high-end breast cancer. I think the company that, we run, we're basically connected to about 40 million patients in India. And we do about, our diagnostic lab today does about tests for 450,000 patients a day, right? So we're actually talking at how do you use AI to provide affordable quality healthcare at a massive scale, right? So there is one level of AI which is precision care at the top, but then there's one which does it at a large scale. And I'll give you a couple of examples. Today, our SaaS tools which empower doctors to consult patients, where the time to undertake the patient's symptoms, findings, history, diagnosis and treatment can all happen, which on an average took 10 to 12 minutes. Using AI and predictive algorithms, it actually happens now under 1 minute. What that means is that the doctor can either spend that extra time talking to the patient, or most of these doctors today who are overburdened with the number of patients that they have to see can now start seeing more patients at the same point of time and make care more affordable at the grassroots level. In terms of our testing, we just published a study today, today in the sense, a couple of days back, on the correlation between your food habits and diabetes. Now, the previous study was done with about 20,000 patient samples. We did it with 2 million patients. And it's only possible because of the fact that we could collect the blood glucose tests of so many patients at a similar time, correlate that to their geography, their food habits, and all of this is only possible because of the transformational power of AI to be able to do studies at this scale, right? Not by a factor of 10% or 20%, but a factor of 100x, right? And all of these things have magnanimous effects of making care more affordable and personalized at the ground, right? And we're talking of in a country of 1.4 billion people where most of them are still reliant on public infrastructure for healthcare. You are trying to use this to make it better. And I think the impact over there is not just measured in terms of better quality of lifestyle, but in fact by longevity in terms of just primary healthcare and so on and so forth. And I think I fundamentally believe that the power of AI will be seen much more at that scale vis-a-vis, and I'm not trying to belittle the impact of AI in complex cases with and areas where there are fundamental breakthrough in new biologics, but I'm talking of AI at having impact at a level of probably a couple of billion people, and I think that is where the impact will be felt the most.
The impact that AI is having, especially in the healthcare industry, is absolutely phenomenal, especially when it comes to early detection, Michael. So how do you see AI enabling preventative care strategies here in the GCC in particular, particularly, let's say, for very serious conditions such as cancer? What's happening in that respect?
I'll just do a little excursus of what you said earlier with respect to where AI is coming in with the wearables. Back to the point, we are generating a lot of data outside of the healthcare system. And there's no practitioner and there's no interest for anybody in the healthcare system to effectively analyze that data with human capital. It just doesn't make financial sense. However, that is where technology can come in and finally identify the patterns and really correlate and bring it together. Because looking at very serious conditions such as cancer, and let's go into one area which is very specific, colorectal cancer. You do have screening guidelines in place. You do have currently tests available, such as a stool test, which, by the way, nobody likes to do, right? You have colonoscopies, which are much more invasive. And then again, you have not necessarily the financials aligned. There's a lot of companies, or some more advanced, because they do it tissue-specific in terms of liquid biopsy. So imagine that you just have another drop of blood on your annual checkup. You then leverage technology to identify even the precancerous stages, the advanced adenomas. With that, you actually open up the funnel for colonoscopies that actually should do a colonoscopy for the patients, because there is potentially an advanced adenoma that can be removed, with that potentially eliminating the growth of cancer altogether. And that is possible due to AI. That is possible due to advancing technologies on the genetic side and really figuring out how can we make it less invasive, seamlessly integrated into the lives of all of us, so that we can do the preventative areas and thus catch a very horrible disease such as cancer in the early stages. Because I would say treatment rates or the successes are extremely high in stage 1 and stage 2. When it comes to stage 3 and stage 4, that is a very, very sad situation. So we have to identify it earlier. But that is the biggest challenge, talking about breast cancer screening. Super important that it happens. The earlier you identify it, the more you can do. But when you do not have access, back to the point of what can technology help with, really providing access, that is where we have to leverage it in order to really get it to the masses, to identify what can be prevented, and that has a positive impact on the health economics as well.
Really, as you said, yeah, early detection and preventative care are going to save so many more lives, and this is the technology that's going to do it at the end of the day, right? Marwan, back over to you. Let's move back to research and development, vital for all of this, of course, as well, especially when it comes to precision medicine. What is the roadmap for AI in healthcare when it comes to provider to patient?
Right, so I think we're living at a very interesting times when it comes to research and development because in the past, it used to take a very long time, 10 years plus, over $2 billion to develop one drug. Now, with all of that information today available digitally, I believe that that time can be much, much shorter. But what's very important is that the universities continue to, do more and more research because that's where the creativity comes in place. That's where there are no strings attached to a profit and loss or valuation, for example. Students being themselves, professors doing what they're best at. But what's important is that we create that bridge for innovation, from bench to market, if you will. And in the UAE, there is a lot happening. This September, for the very first time, there was a research and development grant that was launched, and it was specifically for principal investigators who are in universities. And this also encouraged startups to go and work with professors on ideas because then there is, access to grants. And I've also heard that this grant is going to be doubled or tripled moving forward. So, that's very good for the UAE. And I think what I want to discuss here is, let's capitalize our relationship with India and learn from the things that have been done. We have a lot of similar problems, a lot of similar diseases. So there is, a lot that we can do together.
As you mentioned, it's all about learning and development and sharing knowledge, and what an amazing space to be able to just, have bursts of creativity and get that sort of research done without any sort of interference. It's so important, it really is. Khalid, back over to you for a moment. In the future, do you think we could see AI moving towards, beyond diagnostic treatments to the point of, making healthcare policy decisions? I'm sure, people are a bit worried that AI is going to take over. How do you see things going?
As my colleague mentioned about early diagnosis and research, we have been since we started our company, we have been completely involved into early diagnosis as well as research as well. My thing is what we strongly believe is it's not just about the technology we are developing or using AI to develop some kind of technology. It's also how we have to strategize how we get to the population, to the society as well. Not only in terms of public health, but also in terms of research, public health research as well as clinical research and technological research as well. So that's what we firmly believe on that. And it's not just about we have to think on the entire spectrum of the healthcare system, right from the diagnosis, treatment, as well as public safety as well. So when we talk about treatment, I mean, I have been continuously getting into the market, talking to the doctors, even the patients as well, breast cancer survivors, as well as the family members of the cancer survivors. One thing we learned that it's not just about giving a solution in terms of diagnosis or maybe a treatment, but also how we can help them in terms of recovering them out of mental situation also. And again, I mean, I'm talking about everything related to AI, how we can do it. So even in terms of coming up with the treatment, I have met a couple of patients who are looking, I mean, they know that, okay, I mean, doctor is prescribing something, they have a chemotherapy or maybe some kind of treatment ongoing, but they also wanted to understand what kind of other similar kind of patients is undergoing, or maybe they just want to speak to them. just to share their kind of this thing, but they're not able to find that. Those kind of thing. Also, we need to think on how we can create a complete spectrum where even the patient can speak with a patient, or maybe a patient's family member can speak with a patient, or maybe other family member. That is one thing we need to focus on. The other thing is when we talk about treatments, even the pharmaceutical companies, as you rightly mentioned, generally it takes 10 years to come up with some new drugs, or maybe up to $2 billion to come up with a new drug, and something happens. And there is more than 75–80% of failures in that part. And also, ironically, there is a tremendous amount of data available in the web itself. Like you have clinical trials available, you have drugs details available, you have patient details available. So you have that data. Maybe by using that data, using NLP onto that, research papers, a huge amount of research papers are available. Scraping that data, using some NLP algorithms onto it, maybe we can come up with some solution which we can give it to the pharmaceutical companies, or maybe even the patients. They can come up with, they can just read that abstract out of zillions of data and at least get some idea of, okay, this can be a treatment for me, or maybe this can be a better treatment. Well, actually, they before they actually reach out to the doctors. So this is what I think we can think on.
And as you mentioned, it's using that data, isn't it?
And the other thing is, it has to be a ecosystem network between patients, doctors, hospitals, insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies, and of course the government, which has to come up with some kind of policies to help not only to the patients and the healthcare players, but also to the technological companies as well.
So to make sure that everyone is aligned. Sadly, we have run out of time, and I just want to give the last minute, if possible, because I really wanted to talk a little bit more about telemedicine, and I thought you'd be the person to tackle this one. So what do you think are the next steps when it comes to enhancing cross-border telemedicine networks in the region? And do you think that's an important area that's going to revolutionize healthcare as well?
Significantly revolutionize healthcare. Again, and I'm looking at it from the perspective of India, where you have a lot of the specialist doctors be in the metros, and you have a vast majority of people still living in tier 2, tier 3 rural areas. And for them to get access to not just access to doctors, right? But helping them in basic primary diagnosis so that the doctors who are specialists can do things better. On top of that, ensure that the medicines that you need are also delivered to you in time. And last but not the least, you also get your treatments done, right? So what I would like to call the whole spectrum of outpatient or primary healthcare, information, consultation, diagnosis, and treatment. I believe that there is a massive role for technology to play and getting those in place. So I'll end with that.
Thank you so much. And any other further questions, please do make sure to speak to our panel. But it almost goes back to our conversation earlier about communication and AI. Do you want a chatbot to tell you what's wrong with you, or do you want a doctor on the phone, right? But really interesting. What a fascinating panel. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for our panel. Thank you.